We already talked about Jake and his deck. Now let's go on to Michael. They are playing Arceus V-Star with Inteleon, but there's also going to be that little dark package in there. Not a big one, but there's one Galarian Moltres and a Hoopa V. So trying to capitalize on Mew's weakness, but really just a solid Arceus deck.
Yeah, the Galarian Moltres, I love the comeback potential. Players know that the game is no longer about IKO 2 Pokemon VMAX and the game is over. There's a lot more 2-prize and single-prize Pokemon. So the game is going to be in a position where your opponent has, 2 prizes left, 1 prize left, and then Galarian Moltres comes roaring out of the woodwork to get that clutch, big damage with the Fiery Wrath.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the prize cards here for both players. Quick Ball seems to find its way into the prizes a lot, but double Raihan and the Eldegoss for Jake there.
The Raihan, so important for these sorts of toolbox decks because, again, the ability to search out any card from the list when you need it allows you to respond to that KO. And so having no access to that responsive play to re-get a foothold potentially means that this player could fall too far behind. After that first KO happens, it just becomes a cascade of being unable to recover from that swing.
And here we go, round 12 in day 2. Let's get hype. Both of these players are trying to inch their way closer and closer to make that top 8 cut. And Michael starts things off with a quick ball.
And with Jake starting off with the Galarian almost said Zapdos, goodness, Moltres. Galarian Zapdos did so much work in the other deck that, I just have a soft spot for it.
It's in the hand still.
Okay, good. But the Moltres, anyways, when you're starting off in the active like this, again, I talked so much about this card, it's like surprise factor. And so now it's just kind of hanging out in the open. You might not get that comeback potential with the big dark attack that you're looking for. But Michael just searching through the deck with the quick ball, going for a good shuffle here. Love the matte white sleeves here.
Gets that Arceus V and an energy, so that's really all you can ask for with a deck like this. Do have that Dunsparce, and that could be huge, especially when your opponent is playing that Galarian Zapdos V.
The Dunsparce with the Mysterious Nest ability makes it so that your colorless Pokemon do not have any weaknesses. I said how important it is to take advantage of these weaknesses, and this is what Jake's deck is trying to do, and Michael has the counterattack.
Oh no, but we see Level Ball searching for that Rowlet from Jake here, and it is one of the ways to actually deal with this Dunsparce. If you have a Bird Keeper and play it for the turn, that attacks for free, and it deals 60 damage anywhere.
Anywhere, the Wind Shard attack, so strong. 60 damage to the bench allows you to snipe a lot of these supporter Pokemon that just want to sit there, and maybe you get a clutch prize when you need it. So Jake has the Rowlet, figuring out the rest of the play for the turn.
Opting the Bird Keeper before playing
just
the quick
goes
ball.
for it. Draws 3 cards now after the swap of the Bird Keeper. Lot of options still in the hand. Another quick ball. A lot of good resources in the hand, though. When your hand is so good and you have to decide what to discard rather than having dedicated cards that you don't mind discarding because you're going to get them back, is still pretty rough.
And that's why we saw Jake use the Bird Keeper before playing the second quick ball to thin the deck. Some of the times you're trying to find a specific card for the turn, but then other times you're just trying to get a multitude of cards. And if you need more than one, you just have to go for that Bird Keeper first, and then you can kind of get this Sobble after like we see.
So at least we've got the Sobble down. We've got the makings of an engine. Jake is playing a deck that is certainly much more dependent, I think, on the Inteleon engine because there's so many moving parts, so many bits and pieces that need to come together to find these KOs.
And then we look at Jake's hand. It does have an energy. You can play down that Galarian Zapdos V, get an energy on it if you want, but there's just the energy on the Sobble to try to set up maybe an Aqua Bullet or even just to keep calling for the next turn.
Wind Shard pulls a prize. Does he grab? Yep, grabs the Raihan. Bottom left prize card gamer.
That is a very good prize to grab here, especially when, like you said, this deck relies on playing that prize trading game where I'm going to give up a one prize Pokemon that has 60 HP or so, but I'm going to come back with another 60 HP or one prize Pokemon, take the knockout, and just keep it going. But that Raihan really helps out.
Raihan channeling, the Arceus energy, being able to search through the deck for a specific card is going to allow Jake to put together some sort of counter combination as soon as Michael takes this first KO. And who knows, Michael might just opt to leave this Rowlet in the active, say, if this speed bump is sitting here not doing much, Jake doesn't seem to be signaling a lot of aggression just yet, you take the opportunity to just set up your bench before you start going for knockouts.
And Evolution Incense was played from Michael, found the Arceus V-Star, so Starbirth is now available and chooses to use it, needs to get this Sobble out of the active spot, also needs a double Turbo Energy to take the knockout and start charging up another Arceus. But it's looking like Marnie might be one of the cards of choice here for Michael.
Eyeballing the Marnie, eyeballing the double Turbo. And those are the grabs. You aren't going to see any energy attachment to a Keep Calling by chance.
Definitely needs that double Turbo to the Arceus V.
Yeah, you've got to get that attack off. We've said so much about how the Starbirth is important, but accelerating those energies even more so. This is the main attacker for Michael right now.
And wow, yeah, had an Ultra Ball in hand with a couple of supporters, that Clara and a Professor's Research, opts not to play it, and this is a really risky Marnie. You get 5 cards, you need to find an out to a Drizzile, but it's just off the top, and you get the Scoop Up Net and the Drizzile. What a hand here from Michael.
Michael rewarded for sequencing properly, not going for the risky Ultra Ball, discarding those important resources, going for Marnie to shuffle them back in and maybe use them later. Beautiful draws off the Marnie, gets the Drizzile now into Shady Dealings, puts the rest of this turn together.
And now you can just set up for next turn, grab that boss's orders. You have that Scoop Up Net for the Drizzile and a Level Ball to find another Sobble for the turn if you want.
Picks up the Collapse Stadium.
Eyeing down those 2 cards. But yeah, the Stadium is the card of choice. One card that we saw put in a lot of work in finals of Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And other than that, hasn't really done too much, but it's always an option for these decks. But they tend to go more towards Path to the Peak or Training Court even.
Because of the way the decks are constructed, with needing such thin energy lines, you need that Training Court sometimes to get those energies back because you're using them, you're discarding them a Quick Ball, etc. And the Collapse Stadium just shows especially with the Dunsparce, right? You're looking to counter very specific things that are trying to hurt your deck. Jake doesn't have a lot of Pokemon on the bench yet, but he's just going to throw down the Collapse Stadium right away. Keep that under control. The Collapse Stadium just makes it so that both players have one less bench slot.
Rowlet did its job here, and now with the hand, that Marnie actually really hurt Jake. Had the Galarian Zapdos V in hand and the Raihan, so if he had a way to discard an energy, get the Raihan, get the fighting energy, there's 2 Pokemon V in play, that's an easy KO, but now he's going to have to work hard to try to get it out now.
What an awkward start, and this is, again, this is the other side of the coin when you're playing a deck that has this level of flexibility and utility. You sometimes get into these very clunky spots. You can get disrupted by a Marnie because you have to prep your hand in advance for your upcoming turns. But just picks the Drizzile up off the Evolution Incense. Jake could still make something happen whenever we've got the Sobble sitting there on the bench and we're worried that the hand might be too clunky. Shady Dealings this is what it's for. It's going to let you get the resource you need to make your hand come together. You said it earlier, Jeremy, that the difference between an excellent hand and a bad hand is 1 card.
It looks like the 1 card right now is that Cynthia's Ambition, drawing 4 cards for Jake. One of the best cards for these single prize decks in the fact that you're going to get Pokemon knocked out a lot. Well, if you do, you're just going to draw until you have 8 cards. Most of the time, you're not really going to have much in your hand. So it's even better than a research for these kind of decks.
Ambition all the way up to 8, has a lot of resources, but just goes for the keep calling off the Sobble. Gonna thin out the deck, get more basic Pokemon set up. It's gonna fill up the bench here potentially because of the collapsed stadium, so Jake does have to be very specific about what he grabs.
Well, I believe the only Rapid Strikes are the Sobble in the deck. But with all 4 in play, that just gives you more options. The Drizzile is in hand, but he chose not to play it just because it would get rid of that keep calling attack. And so setting up for the following turn, that's usually what these kind of toolbox decks have to do. You just always have to set up for the next turn, always set up for the next play. If you don't, you're not going to have a next play next turn.
And Michael recognizes this, maybe looking for another Marnie perhaps, but just going to go for the level ball, chilling. And this is a strong setup for Michael, right? Has the Collapse Stadium, has the Arceus V-Star in play, already used the Starbirth ability, has energy accelerated to the Hoopa. And this is where the floodgates are going to open. As soon as this first Sobble goes down, it's going to be single prize KO after single prize KO. And one of the upsides of running a single prize deck like this is the fact that once your opponent gets an advantage, they're taking the knockouts, but they can't end the game as quickly as they would like.
Well, this is a big turn for Michael. Had the Shady Dealings, but found Clara and used it just to bring back that Dunsparce, the card that is going to try to save this Arceus V-Star from that Galarian Zapdos V. And now Jake has to kind of pivot their game plan. He had it in his mind that, okay, I'm going to set this up so I can Raihan a Galarian Zapdos V, 2 energy, get the KO, but now you got to do a lot more.
When you force a deck like this to have so many extra cards and so many extra resources, despite its utility, when you have access to like the extra draws, getting the right cards all together is a pretty tall order. Both players are kind of just adapting to very specific, narrow techs. And even though you can find them with the Shady Dealings, you can't necessarily get everything that you need when the situation at hand is too specific or too diverse, ironically.
It's looking like Hoopa might be the best option for Jake here, being able to do 90 damage with that Assault Gate attack. If you bring it to the active.
Just goes for a quick ball. What's the discard here?
Looks like
eyeballing one of these 2 energies.
Yep.
Yeah, so keeps the fighting energy in hand, still trying to play towards that Zapdos. Gets the Hoopa down now. And the Collapse Stadium, once again, doing a little bit of work, just kind of strangling Jake's plays a bit. You want to get a full bench, but hopefully the choice to get the 3 Sobble out to bench in this manner is enough. By filling up the bench, you're just relying on your opponent to take the knockouts, right? And just give you more and more options to keep benching Pokemon and taking advantage of those powerful abilities.
Does have Scoop Up Net in the deck, though, a full 4 copies, so that is a way to play around this Collapse Stadium without having another counter stadium in the hand. And it also enables another Shady Dealings from this Drizzile, and that is the one benefit for this deck, right? And now this is the game plan Jake had. I'm going to take down this Dunsparce again. You're going to bring it back again.
And by taking down the Dunsparce, you are just making this Arceus V-Star a huge liability. And if Michael is afraid to have this Arceus V-Star in the active, then that's going to be less acceleration and maybe buys Jake a little bit more time. Jake getting the knockouts as well gives you access to prizes. Not really designed to take a lot of prizes rapidly like we've seen other decks do, but just getting the extra card in your hand sometimes can make or break the situation.
Cape of Toughness to join the Hoopa as well. And there is that Assault Gate for the KO. Dunsparce hits the discard yet again, and this will turn on Galarian Zapdos V for Jake. Just still needs to find a way to cobble it together.
Galarian Zapdos V won't be able to come down unless Michael takes one more knockout. Does Jake have any way to get rid of this Collapsed Stadium?
Yeah, I do believe there was one training court.
Okay, one training court. Jake just waiting for the right time, perhaps. lulling Michael into a false sense of security, then we'll suddenly be able to overwrite that collapsed stadium and get the bench. Galaria's Zapdos V is, you know, the best used as a surprise attacker for sure.
Here we see the Ultra Ball find that Inteleon from Sword and Shield with its shady dealings as well. Now we're going to see 2 trainers for Michael, and gonna have to find a way to get that Dunsparce back in play. You already used that Clara. You have Palpad here.
At this point, just give up the 2 prizes, right? Just let it go down. Is the Dunsparce worth it? But ironically, Michael's forcing Jake to jump through a lot of hoops to keep answering the Dunsparce over and over again. And maybe Michael is luring Jake into that style of gambit where you've overextended, focusing too much on this one aspect of your win condition, and maybe you're left without enough resources to actually close out the game.
Yeah, so there is an option for Michael. Opts to grab that Professor's Research. There was some weird way you can get another Drizzile, get the Clara that you put back, play the Clara, get that Dunsparce. Still might have it in hand. Just needs another Drizzile.
Palpad puts the Marnie and the Clara back in the deck, going to shuffle it up here.
And one important thing to note, too, is that Cape of Toughness was huge. Being able to put that Hoopa out of range from the Aqua Bullet from Michael's Inteleon, really important, forces Michael to use these big attackers that cost more.
And here's the research. Can we get the Clara again? Can we get the Dunsparce again? Raihan not too shabby.
Evolution Incense will be able to find a Drizzile. You have a Scoop Up Net, but you don't really want to Scoop Up Net that Inteleon with the energy. It is going to be a pretty good attacker in this matchup just because your opponent's Pokemon have such low HP.
So Evolution Incense just going to find the Drizzile instead, goes for Shady Dealings, and gets the Clara very easily after shuffling it back into the deck. Just going to take another look just to make absolutely sure, even if you might have a play in mind. Here in the first game, the players will take some time to think and make absolutely sure that's the play you want to go for.
One thing that has also been crucial for this game is Michael has played around that Galarian Zapdos almost as well as you can. Only having those 2 Pokemon V in play, and then getting that Dunsparce twice, trying to get it next turn as well. And we'll see if it's going to pay off for him or not. Jake will have 1 turn to do it. And wow, Michael actually opts to Scoop Up Net that Inteleon. So the energy is gone, and that's just...
Yeah, rebenching the Sobble, just wants to set up even more utility, more Shady Dealings, not really focusing too much on the Aqua Bullet at this time. With the Hoopa V in the active, maybe just confident that there is enough punch ready to go.
What a draw from Jake. Finds that Inteleon, and that will open up this hand even more.
Shady Dealings Inteleon allowing you to use the enhanced Shady Dealings of finding 2 trainer cards from your deck. And this is very similar again to like Raihan, being able to find those cards that you need specifically when you need them.
Some would say shadier dealings.
Oh, pardon me, the shadiest of dealings. The Shady Deities.
All right, these are pretty important 2 cards here for Jake, just trying to continue the onslaught of his attackers. Raihan could be the card here, but I don't think anything's actually taking the knockout on this active Hoopa V.
Raihan, and yeah, just gonna opt for that right away. And where's this energy going to go? Like, there's the thing about Jake's list is there's a lot of card draw going on. There's a lot of shuffling going on. The threat of that Zapdos has really been carrying Jake's game plan. But after that first Marnie went off, we haven't had a chance to get it back into the hand.
And just to clarify, still finishing that Shady Dealings, grabs that Evolution Incense for the second trainer card. Now Jake is playing Quick Ball, possibly to find an attacker here, maybe that Galarian Zapdos V. Oh, looking like Galarian Moltres V.
Okay, okay. Moltres V, another pretty big attacker. The Dire Flame Wings, you can get that Darkness energy back from the discard pile if you want. And now the bench is full once again for Jake, thanks to this collapsed stadium.
With this Raihan, Jake will be able to attach an energy to his Pokemon and search the deck for a card. Do you attach it to the Inteleon, get an Aqua Bullet off this turn? You can possibly get the Galarian Moltres V powered up here, and that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
A little awkward, though.
Yeah, because you have to attach the energy in order to get the search.
But it seemed like there was only one dark energy in this card.
That's what it looked like to me. Was maybe hoping to find like a water energy or something.
Well, there was the water energy as well, but with Dire Flame Wings, you need more dark energies just to get it charged up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Training court, there it finally is, overriding the collapsed stadium, opening up that final bench slot.
Thankfully, there is a second one, so with that, Jake will be able to attack this turn, and that's not a scoop up net. That's
Oh, hang on. Jake says that there was a scoop up net, might have accidentally shuffled it into the discard pile. But goes for the incense instead.
I don't believe he's had it in hand.
Okay, but incense for Drizzile for scoop up net. But because again, these toolbox decks, a lot of moving parts, a lot of sequencing. Sometimes you can get mixed up. The judges are there to make sure everything stays, all in order. But the Evolution Incense still needs to find something, and it is indeed Drizzile. Has the Shady Dealings now. Going to keep searching. There's the scoop up net. Okay, so the rest of the play does indeed come together.
And pretty important, getting back that Inteleon again so you can use it to search your deck next turn to get another attacker up.
And Jake might be going back into the deck. Doesn't want it to be shuffled just yet.
Looking at his hand, though, I don't think he can.
Checking through all the resources here. This is a game with so much responsiveness and utility. The players are trying to outthink each other's like main attackers, be one step ahead of the opponent, and already so much time has been spent here just in the first game.
So Jake did have the option of playing that Inteleon down right now to use Shady Dealings to get another 2 cards, but I think he needed a Choice Belt plus that Galarian
the Zigzagoon
in hand.
Yeah, and you can see that with the players also prepping for future turns, the lines start to blur between, is this play meant for this turn or is there a setup? And Michael's sitting across from all of this sequencing and wondering, what does Jake have going on here? So Galarian Zigzagoon does get to the bench, deal an extra ping of damage, and then just the aura burn.
Yeah, just 200 damage, not enough to take the knockout, and Michael starts things off with his own Shady Dealings from Inteleon here.
Searches for the Choice Belt, has options to get one more card, and things are coming down to the wire, right? Because both of these decks are running a lot of single prize Pokemon. It's very easy for Michael to, if I have to buy another turn or two, maybe just promote a Sobble or something. And Jake is trying to focus down on getting some decent attackers in play. Finally, we're seeing the Galarian Moltres V here. And maybe with the Zapdos V, we can take down the Hoopa, we can take down the Arceus, and close out this game. With Jake having 4 prize cards remaining, these are the main targets.
And when Michael got a look through Jake's discard, we saw the reason why that Inteleon wasn't played last turn. That one of Choice Belt is in the discard already, got discarded super early, and that was the one way to take that one-hit knockout on the Hoopa V. So no access to it for Jake there. Is going to have to rely on maybe a couple scoop-up nets on that Galarian Zigzagoon to take this knockout, and then hopefully another knockout on something else.
Drizzile comes down once again. Shady dealing, so much deck searching, so many cards to have access to at any given time. We've got the boss's orders now. What do you think Michael's thinking about sniping up here soon? Though there's Dunsparce making his grand re-entrance. With the Collapse Stadium out of the way, the players have access to a lot more bench space, a lot more utility. Just going to take the knockout here. 2 prizes now for Michael.
Going down to 1, and that means that boss's orders will be able to bring up anything Michael chooses to take the knockout with that Arceus V-Star. So Jake will need to try to disrupt the hand a little bit. You know your opponent has essentially game in hand next turn, and you have 4 prizes still yet to take.
So here comes Drizzile. Can we find a Marnie, perhaps?
This turn, it needs 2 scoop-up nets and a boss on the Arceus. But even if you do that, that Inteleon still has a water energy. Just another water energy Aqua Bullet can take out the Galarian Zigzagoon, a Drizzile, and it's just not looking good. But quick shooting Inteleon is that extra damage that Jake needs.
Quick shooting Inteleon, once per turn, you can put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Doesn't need to be in the active, can just be on the bench. Very useful, and this was like, you know, the OG damage spreader, you know, the way to fix your damage numbers for this format.
It has been seeing a lot less play in favor of the Shady Dealings Inteleon because it also has a better attack. But a lot of these decks, especially this toolbox deck, utilizes quick shooting so well, and you see it here, cleaning up that almost KO that Jake had last turn. Didn't find a scoop up net from the prizes, but still has some good options for this turn, although
and
enough to boss the Arceus.
Yeah, so now things are just going to go over to Michael. He can promote and just needs to take one more knockout here. Looks like it's going to go through. Not even promoting the Arceus here.
Well, yeah, if you promote the Arceus, you just lose on the spot to a Galarian Moltres with a couple energies.
That is important to note. Jake took the KO with quick shooting, not an attack.
This is the hard part, though, because the best way to get your Galarian Moltres all powered up is through Clara. But if you play a Clara, you can't play boss's orders. And if you attack with anything, your opponent is going to attach an energy and boss's orders something and take the KO end game 1 here.
Yeah, and Inteleon here with the Shady Dealings only has 160 HP. Still within striking distance. Still trying to find the final piece of utility. Eyeballing a boss.
Yeah, you can get the boss's orders, but with no attacker really in hand. Oh, and it's looked like he's just scooping the game up. Yeah, you can boss's order something, but if you have the energy, you're just going to retreat and take the KO. And with that, Michael pulls off a Game 1 victory in one that was really back and forth.
The main factor, I think, in that first game was certainly Michael just respecting the Zapdos the entire game. The Dunsparce was down on the first turn, came right back and hit that bench, forced Jake to jump through a lot of hoops to deal with it, bought so much time, and as things came down to the wire, there just wasn't enough time for Jake to come back into the game. The early discard of the Choice Belt, the lack of water energy, like just these small choices from way earlier in the game just coming back to haunt Jake. When you have a deck like this that needs to prepare so far in advance, there's almost no way to predict that a situation where this Choice Belt's going to matter, this water energy is going to matter, can realistically be prepped for. And Michael was still beautifully checking that discard pile and anticipating the plays that he was under threat of.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think Jake would have had it if that Choice Belt was in the deck for that KO on the Hoopa, and still cleaned it up with that quick shooting, but just could not take it down. Not having the Eldegoss in play to search for your energies, that's an easy way to go around the Clara, and we saw that in the prizes didn't really come up. Gossifleur wasn't hitting the board anytime soon, and we'll have to see. The decks are very similar in the way they play, but the big difference is how many prizes you take for each Pokemon. And we saw there just getting set up, get those 2 attackers, limiting your bench to those 2 V Pokemon. That's the biggest thing.
True.
You still get kind of blown out by a big Raihan play, but that doesn't matter when you're
fighting
playing
energy
around it.
Deep in the prizes. How many
One.
fighting energy? Only 1. So the Zapdos now off the table. We saw this happen in day 1 where the Zapdos had one cracked game just farming the Arceus. The pressure of just this early attacker was too much to handle, but now without the fighting energy, even with that fighting instinct discount based on how many Pokemon V your opponent has in play, you can't use that Zapdos. So Jake is going to be in a similar situation as game 1 of, okay, now I need to pivot and rely on Galarian Moltres to get these KOs.
It's going to be a little tougher to do, and really it's going to have to rely on those random Pokemon, the Rowlet, the Hoopa, to take some early KOs on Sobble, try to maybe stymie your opponent's setup a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. If Rowlet comes down, and because Jake now knows I don't have that fighting energy, I don't want to play towards the Zapdos, if that Wind Shard combo comes through with the Bird Keeper, you start sniping Sobbles instead of having to jump through hoops and deal with Dunsparce, maybe Michael just gets slowed down and bricked. So this matchup potentially is going to demonstrate a completely different texture than what we saw in the first game.
Now it's up to Michael to cobble together a turn here, but oh no. Look at that hand. A couple stadiums, Energy Search, Choice Belt, Evolution Incense, and there is the Keep Calling. Still an okay start. You get some more Sobbles. You have the Evolution Incense for the Drizzile. But there's not going to be an Arceus V-Star coming down for at least 2 turns, and that has to be a little worrisome.
When you know you're giving your opponent that much room to get set up, Jake, playing a deck that specifically wants to get set up, you know that Michael is feeling the pressure immediately right now. So now things are back over to Jake. Quick Ball gets rid of the Galarian Moltres. And now getting another look through the deck.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the Rowlet here. You're going to Drizzile for the Bird Keeper, and Bird Keeper into the Rowlet. Easy KO.
Yep, leaves the Bird Keeper down at the bottom. Going to go back in for it. Evolution Incense for Drizzile.
Looking through the list. Okay, there's no Raihan in Michael's deck, so taking the KO on the active is just the best choice. Usually, sometimes, if your opponent would have a Raihan, you don't want to get that energy in the discard, but you can still retreat it, so it doesn't matter too much.
Jake, a little bit aware of the lack of time here in Swiss Round 12, taking some shortcuts. Judge wagging his finger at him a little bit, making sure everything remains properly sequenced. We've seen it before. Once the matches come down to the wire, the players have to play incredibly quickly, and with a deck this intricate, that with the Inteleon engine playing against another deck with the Inteleon engine, there's going to be a lot of shuffling, a lot of searching. So we got to make sure that we're tightening up these plays and make sure that everything stays syncopatico. So here we go. Rowlet now coming into the active with the Bird Keeper. You get to switch your active Pokemon with that benched Pokemon, draw 3 cards, and due to the Sky Circus ability on Rowlet, the Wind Shard is free. So now we can deal 60 damage, was it, to any Pokemon on Michael's side.
And what a great draw off that Bird Keeper, finding the Eldegoss and the Level Ball. So Level Ball will search for that Gossifleur. Next turn, you're going to start having as many energy as you want, essentially. 2 energy per turn from your deck to your hand, thanks to that Eldegoss ability.
And once you get access to more energy, it makes the Aqua Bullet and attacks of that nature from the Inteleons you have in your deck much more easily accessible. And once the snipes start to happen, maybe this is the true potential of Jake's list, not having these counter weakness attackers, but going old school with the Inteleons just in sniping the bench. When the Inteleon engine was at maximum efficiency, this was also one of the reasons that Rapid Strike Urshifu rose to prominence, because of the ability to use G-Max Rapid Flow and immediately snipe the bench. Max Thunder Rumble from Jolteon VMAX. And so Jake going to channel a little bit of that bench spreading power.
And my mistake, there actually is a Raihan in Michael's deck, so that is an option. A good way to play around it by taking down that bench Sobble. And again, you can still retreat into the attacker, Raihan, maybe Trinity Charge, or the second attack for 130 with the Arceus V.
So just goes for Drizzile. Still searching for something to get off of the ground here. Inteleon Engine is great for finding the cards you want and the utility you need, but that's not the main focus of Michael's deck the way it is for Jake. He needs the Arceus V. Fortunately, it is found here. Beautiful alternate art. And the double turbo attachment. The Arceus V Star going to still be a little bit delayed here. But Jake not doing anything too aggressive just yet. Might barely be able to get this big Pokemon V Star into play before that window of opportunity fully closes.
We could also, well, I don't know if we could see a Melanie this turn. There's no water in the discard. And Path to the Peak, but that's not really going to be a card that's too well utilized here, except for the 2V Pokemon in Jake's deck. Both do have really relevant abilities.
Maybe just waiting for the perfect window of opportunity to play that path instead. Collapse Stadium, as we know, has a lot of just general purpose use here. And over to Jake now with the quick ball, opening it up, maybe looking for another Drizzile here.
Yeah, who needs Energy Search when you're going to evolve into an Eldegoss?
And definitely underrated engine for the deck. Finds the Hoopa with the Assault Gate attack. For only 1 energy, you can deal 90, but in exchange, Hoopa has to come from the bench into the active slot.
Talk about jumping through hoops.
I like the way that it is a Pokemon that's based around like opening up portals, and it just comes out of nowhere, deals that 90 damage, and the attack's not affected by weakness, so you can just punch right through, get that 90.
Evolution Incense is eyeing down that Inteleon from Sword and Shield and possibly 2 scoop-up nets.
All right, we'll see what the shady dealings Inteleon has in store. Double scoop-up net. So now we're going to get some spice going on. Now the engine is online. Scoop-up net on the Rowlet. Eldegoss Evolution. Hoopa is in the active. We just need to attach 1 Darkness Energy to it. The scoop-up net pulls the shady dealings Inteleon. The full pile back to the hand. Sobble rebenched. We have access to the Drizzile to evolve this other Sobble.
And this has been just such an insane turn from Jake here. And like you said, this is really just how the deck functions. It's what it wants to do. You use those shady dealing abilities to find these cards you need to enable just attack after attack. And you capitalize on your opponent's slow start like Michael has here.
Beautiful. Level Ball finds Mew with the Mysterious Tail ability, and now Eldegoss getting the Darkness Energy out of the deck as well. There's the final shuffle. Jake is done fishing for now, and we have the Hoopa. All the conditions have been met. Put into the active spot this turn, has the Darkness Energy as well, can pick up a KO on the Drizzile. $90 damage is exactly what you need to stop a lot of these Pokemon.
Yeah, just easy cleanup damage. You can knock out most basic Pokemon that are going to evolve. And even with this Drizzile here, taking that away and giving away the option of something like a scoop-up net or something like that for Michael. Does have Evolution Incense in hand, though, for the Arceus V-Star to go along with the Ultra Ball.
Yep, perfect. Evolution Incense making the rest of the turn come together. Jake had a fantastic setup play. All the tools that were missing in that first game are now present, and Michael gets to respond. Arceus V-Star now hitting the board with an attachment, setting up for the Trinity Nova. Going to go for Starbirth first. And as we search through the deck, Michael has to think about, what do I want to pivot to? We could find that Hoopa again. A lot of different things to have access to from this position. When you have, 2 cards from your entire deck, you already have to have a play in mind once you use that Starbirth ability. You know what 2 cards you're going for.
It's like pulling up to a drive-through and you just go,
Can I get another attacker for my bench? Can I get a Drizzile? But no, gets the Dunsparce. Yeah, Michael doesn't know that Jake has that fighting energy prize. Just still respecting the Zapdos.
Yeah, and that is, I guess, one benefit for prizing that fighting energy, right? You don't have your best play available in the matchup, but Your opponent doesn't know that.
And your deck has so many moving parts. Like, I suppose if you peer deep into the ether, you could get a read that, my opponent doesn't seem to be playing towards Zapdos anymore. But I don't think there's really any way to give that away with just Drizzile doing Drizzile things at you.
Well, there we see the Marnie, a couple of Pokemon and energy found for Michael, but Drizzile will keep things going here. Could see something like Quick Ball to probably get out another Pokemon V, get some things going.
Arceus V-Star is in a good position to carry without the Zapdos, without the Galarian Moltres or the other Moltres in play. You're only worried about this Hoopa dealing some chip damage. Things look pretty good. Michael maybe is not too worried about pivoting into another attacker at this point. Yeah, even discarding the Galarian Moltres. Again, the players want this as like a comeback card. It needs the game to go on a little bit longer, maybe re-employ that with the Clara later.
Most likely going to find just another Arceus V here. One of the best attackers that can just knock out most anything, continually charge up another attacker, and you need something for this energy to go to. Yeah,
the quote-unquote like standard normal Arceus Inteleon deck, does very heavily rely on Arceus as the main attacker. So cutting away a lot of the chaff, a lot of the utility, and saying that in a matchup like this where I don't need the darkness Pokemon to hit weakness, I can just lean on Arceus V-Star and let it get the KOs. So now Michael just has to find 6 turns of just back-to-back attacks to take single prize after single prize.
The thing that's hard, though, is you have that fighting energy prized. No Galarian Zapdos V available to you. These Arceus V-Stars have 280 hit points. Your opponent's only taken 1 prize. That means Galarian Moltres V isn't doing a lot. You're going to have to 2-hit knockout a lot of these Arceus. And if you do that, that opens up a play like Charon's Care for Michael's side of things.
Michael with the Charon's Care. It's been a card that is so clutch. If your opponent has to set up a 2-turn KO, or if they just happen to be a little bit short on damage due to a big charm or whatever damage modifiers you might have, defensive maneuvers and measures you've put in your deck to mess with that math, it just becomes such a punishing play.
Well, here we do see a good play here from Jake. Palpad back that Bird Keeper, level ball for the Rowlet, and then a Shady Dealings will be able to find that Bird Keeper, and this is a knockout on the Dunsparce, still just digging for that fighting energy, but it is in the top right.
Yeah, you have to dig for the fighting energy. You need that other attacker to come through to let you get 1 or 2 prizes to start things off and then rapidly accelerate into 1 or 2 back-to-back attacks that close out the game before your opponent can kind of recover. Also using the Cotton Lift ability while we're searching through the deck to get the 2 energy. And so now Jake has the pieces in place. And even though it's not a high priority to snipe the Dunsparce, it's still a free prize, and you're only just playing towards the Zapdos eventually coming down.
Oh, we do see a quick shooting Inteleon, so unfortunately attached the water energy to the Drizzile that was already in play. And because of that, you don't want to evolve that one for the quick shooting, get an extra 20 damage. So we'll have to wait till next turn, but there is a prize. But unfortunately, no fighting energy. And now Michael doesn't have that Dunsparce, is going to have to try to play to get it back. But how many resources will you have to waste?
Yeah, Michael doesn't know that the Zapdos is not yet part of the equation, is going to hopefully, if you do what you did in the first game, jumping through a bunch of hoops to get the Dunsparce back, we see the Clara drawn into the hand. If you're focusing too much on defending the Arceus V-Star, it could be detrimental. But as it stands right now, Jake, with 3 prize cards left, is still in a great position to maybe just start sniping Sobbles and Drizziles off the bench instead.
Have to do it with getting this Rowlet back yet again. Maybe something like a Clara, but if you do that, you can't Bird Keeper in the same turn. We might just see the Inteleon evolve Shady Dealings for a boss's orders and attach that energy. That's a way to get that knockout on Drizzile, on Sobble.
There's the Shady Dealings Inteleon. Going to look through the deck for 2 more trainer cards. We have 1 energy attached to this already, 1 more for the Aqua Bullet. Then you can deal 120 to the active and then 20 to the bench. Maybe try to soften up this Arceus V-Star. If Michael gets scared, maybe pops that Sharon's Care preemptively, loses out on potential attack power. Finds boss's orders, finds level ball, plays level ball to get the Sobble. Eldegoss finding 2 more energy. This was the missing piece from game 1 for Jake's deck. Having this Cotton Lift to find the energy gives you access to so many more attack patterns and potential than you had before. And Michael is starting to get back into a corner. There hasn't really been a lot of aggression from his side. And by being under the pressure of potential Zapdos, maybe just been too afraid to extend into some positions that could get punished. Here comes the boss's orders now as well. Drizzile comes up. And there's the second attachment. Sets up the Aqua Bullet. Gets the KO on the Drizzile. And where is the 20 damage going to go? Onto the Arceus V-Star.
Yeah, you just want to have it as softened up as possible. So the more prize cards Michael takes, the better the odds for that Galarian Moltres to take the knockout.
And there's the Clara. Has the option to fish through, get that Dunsparce again, and the Galarian Moltres that was in there before from way earlier in the game. Is Michael going to opt for the Moltres or maybe pull a Sobble, try to keep the chain going? Just goes for Drizzile, get the evolution.
Could just be a sense that doesn't really have much in hand in the way of continuing it. Does have an evolution incense though, so maybe that'll just find the second Arceus V-Star. Oh, almost went for the Sobble, or the Drizzile.
Yep, so second Arceus V-Star does hit. So now we have another attacker ready to go. And the Drizzile now being put down onto the Sobble using its Shady Dealings ability that we've seen time and time again to search through the deck and find one trainer card. Gets the big Charm to give extra HP to one of these Arceus.
Could also big charm the Dunsparce.
Oh, what a play. Tanky Dunsparce on the bench. Doesn't want to get sniped here. Now that we've got the Shady Dealings Inteleon, potentially access to the quick shooting Inteleon, you want to give a little bit more HP to this little boy.
It'll depend on if another boss is already in the discard or not, but Hoopa still takes the knockout, dealing 90 damage to that Dunsparce. But again, he's just trying to limit the amount of damage Rowlet can do as a card.
Yeah, very close game 2. Things are coming down to the wire. Only a few minutes left in the round. Michael really wants to close this out. Doesn't want to go to a game 3, potentially get a tie. And Jake can hopefully close this one out here in the next few minutes and maybe get a massive advantage. The game could be pretty quick if it goes to a game 3 if we get finally the proper setup of Zapdos versus Arceus V.
It could, but with the way Jake has to play his deck, there's so many different moving pieces, and the fact that you have to do everything to get that attack off for a turn, I think this turn's really just going to take 2 minutes.
The timer is already ticking down. We've got Drizzile once again searching through the deck. There's just no good attackers left over after that Shady Dealings Inteleon went down. Eyeballing the Evolution Incense.
Evolution Incense will grab that Inteleon yet again.
And then we get another Shady Dealings, the shadier dealings from the Inteleon here.
Raihan seems to be the card of choice that will allow you to Aqua Bullet this turn.
And there's Raihan, and then one more card potentially available for Jake now. It's up to 2. You don't have to take both, but you always want both because it's an extra card. You want extra card.
Always.
So anyway, we take the air balloon. That way you have more utility around what you want to retreat into, have in the active. And with the Raihan, Jake will be able to set up the Aqua Bullet, as you said, Jeremy.
The awkward part is, though, Aqua Bullet's not going to take the knockout here. You're not really going to do too much damage. And, well, just charging up the Rowlet, a little manual attachment here.
Rowlet, if you could put 3 energy on it.
That is the 3 energy.
The double turbo onto the Rowlet. This is the first time I've seen this play. We can get the Rowlet into the active, and we can just use the Wind Shard. And because the double turbo energy does have that damage, it lowers the damage, but when it is just the number that's stated on the attack, is that modified, Jeremy?
Yeah, so it's only going to do 40 damage.
And so Mew coming up into the active, going to use the Mysterious Tail before being swapped out, has one retreat here. You get to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and then add one of the item cards that you find there to your hand.
Cape of Toughness seems to be the choice here for Jake. But this has been a very awkward turn to try to cobble together a good attacker. I guess dealing the 40 damage should be just enough to maybe take the active KO.
This is the ultimate underdog deck. It's a bunch of baby Pokemon versus Arceus V-Star, the poster child of the Brilliant Stars expansion, and just this looming presence on the other side of the board. There's the Wind Shard.
Talk about David versus Goliath.
And there is a little bit of a question in the ruling about whether it deals 60 or 40. There we go.
Now it's up to Michael, but there's 20 seconds left. I thought that turn was going to take 2 minutes. It ended up taking 3.
Oh, no. So Michael now has to try to find a way to take 3 prizes in the next few turns. So in this position, Michael does not want to be turn 0, right? Just immediately swing in.
You need to not play that Ultra Ball, just attack, pass. But unfortunately, it's not looking like it's going to be like that. And with the timer running down, we'll get confirmation when time is called. But it's looking like Michael is going to be turn 0. That means he would not have enough turns to actually take the knockout.
So Ultra Ball finds the Inteleon. We now have the Inteleon working for Michael now, searching through the deck for 2 more. So 2 more trainer cards activated. Has access to a lot of resources. You got to check your hand, figure it out. Michael just, after you've been playing Pokemon for so long, especially so many rounds of Swish, you kind of just get a natural read on how much time has passed. Michael probably recognizing that the round is already over. And so just taking his time, thinking about, is there a line to victory here? 3 prizes left with 3 turns. If you can get a knockout each turn, everything that Jake has at his disposal is very small compared to the damage numbers that Michael's putting out.
Well, you got to realize Michael only has 2 turns. This turn and then turn 2 of
Exactly.
time.
Just needed to immediately attack and let Jake become turn 0.
So now you have to completely switch up the game plan. You are playing Denial. Boss up something that can't make an attack, maybe a little hard to retreat, all right? Then you maybe scoop up Net or something like that on the Inteleon. You don't want that in play. And I would not take a prize. If you take a prize here, that's just powering up that Galarian Moltres even more.
Michael spent so much time playing around the Zapdos. I'm sure as a player he's going to respect that Moltres as well.
And if you take a prize, you also turn on Raihan, which means Zapdos can be easily powered up. And it's really just stuff you have to do. You still don't know your opponent doesn't have the fighting. You can kind of expect it with the way the game's been going.
Retreating into the Arceus V-Star. So we've got the second one in the active.
Yes, he passed. This is great heads-up play from Michael. Having won the first game, if this game does not finish, Michael will be the victor.
Yes, being up 1-0 with no time. Jake now is turn 1. We'll see if Michael's Denial Gambit does pay off here at the end with Jake's deck based so much around utility and being able to find the tools you need at any given moment. We'll see if there is enough time for Jake to cobble together. I think that's been the entire set, is Jake cobbling together these strategies and these attacks. This is the toolboxiest of toolboxes.
Well, you have 2 turns to do it. You cannot play a bench Pokemon down because Clap Stadium, so you need to do it in combination with a Scoop Up Net. I think there's one left, maybe two in the deck. No, just one. And you can deal 40 with the Rowlet, but then your opponent's still not going to take a knockout. So that means Galarian Moltres is only going to do, what, 170? So you need to do 110 damage to the active Arceus to even try to have a possibility to win the game next turn.
And Michael always has access to that Sharon's Care as well if you're trying to set up a 2-turn KO. Just does the Sharon's Care, gets that healing, maybe just promotes the Shady Dealings Inteleon. And there's the attach to the Eldegoss.
You kind of have to.
So that you can retreat. We still have the double turbo and the darkness energy on this Rowlet to use the Wind Shard ability, dealing 40 damage to one of these Pokemon.
Ordinary Rod will shuffle back a couple dark energies and possibly that Galarian Moltres V, or Galarian Moltres?
Yep, Galarian Moltres now being part of the equation. Michael reevaluating the situation, having to adapt your game plan. This is, honestly, I do want to give a compliment to Jake's deck. The fact that it seems like such a clunky underdog build, but it's forcing Michael to constantly shift gears and adapt in response to it. Jake has actually had so much pressure continuously throughout this entire set, and it's just been an undercurrent for both players' plays that we really haven't had a chance to talk about, and it's coming to a head here where Michael has beautifully respected the Zapdos the entire time, the Moltres, not taking that extra knockout like you said, Jeremy, not wanting to power up that Moltres. And we'll see if Arceus V-Star can stand tall in the active spot for one more round.
All right, so that is 60 damage on the benched Arceus V-Star in total, 20 on the active. With some combination of maybe quick shooting Inteleon, scoop up net, and oh wow.
There's a Sharon's Care.
Had it in hand.
Heals that Arceus V by sending it back to the hand, and looks like another retreat into the Arceus V-Star, going to promote the Shady Dealings Inteleon, just having a single prize Pokemon in the active. And Dunsparce making a glorious reappearance. And now we're over to Jake. Final turn of the game, final turn of the set, final turn of Swiss round 12. And can you find a way to promote this Arceus V-Star and get the KO?
It does not look like it. You need that one scoop up net left in your deck. You have that Shady Dealings
Fighting energy in the prizes.
Yeah.
Zapdos cannot come down to save you.
And with that, Michael takes down round 12 and moves himself closer to trying to make that top 8 cut.
The game was so beautifully played. We've seen a lot of flashy games over the course of the Swiss rounds where there's a lot of big attacks, some clutch draws and combos, but this one was very methodical where the players were just trying to outmaneuver one another and just outplay. I'm predicting what you're trying to set up, and I've already prepared for that eventuality. They were playing some 4D Pokemon.
4D Pokemon indeed, and that's one of the reasons why that dark toolbox deck is really just very unique, and it's scary because you never really know what your opponent can do. We saw there like early Birdkeeper Rowlet being able to put a lot of pressure, but Michael able to take that game one in a pretty back and forth match, and it just took a lot of time for both players to do it. And then game two, not enough time to finish there, just so close at the end for Jake to pull off that tie.
The Galarian Zapdos, really unfortunate that it wasn't really able to come together at all during that set. And that is, you already talked about it, Jeremy, having just the one fighting energy. It's very detrimental if that goes into the prizes. We know that a lot of players are playing, the name of the support is escaping me, the one that lets you swap